All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. We're going to unpack that massive internal tug-of-war going on inside you. You know, the battle between logic and instinct that keeps you totally stuck in analysis paralysis. We're going to look really closely at why your brain might actually be lying to you and why trusting that quiet internal feeling might honestly be the smartest decision you could ever make. To start things off, I want you to ask yourself, have you ever just completely ignored your gut? Seriously. Think about a time you accepted a job or a relationship that checked all the boxes. It was absolutely perfect on paper, right? But it left you with this heavy, invisible weight on your chest. You were probably avoiding making a decision and you didn't even know why. Basically, your mind said yes, but your gut was screaming no. So, Section 1, the inner tug-of-war, logic versus instinct. We are constantly, almost aggressively, trained to ignore our deepest knowing. We're told over and over that trusting our instincts is reckless. But, as we're about to see, that couldn't be further from the truth. Here's the core conflict. Think of your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, as this highly meticulous, slightly neurotic lawyer. It evaluates the risks, the benefits, the evidence, the pros, the cons. It runs endless simulations because it desperately wants everything to make logical sense. But your gut? Well, your gut is primal. It's emotional, and it is incredibly fast-acting. It literally reacts before you even have the time to form a thought. In those massive, life-changing moments, your gut often knows the truth long before your logical brain ever catches up. And you know exactly how this plays out when we ignore that primal knowledge. An amazing opportunity comes up. You take that logical corporate gig, the one your parents brag about to all their friends, and you just brush off your internal unease as a simple fear of change. You convince yourself, hey, everyone feels this way. But then, within 3 short months, you find yourself absolutely miserable. And it's not because of the long hours or the people, but because it's simply not a fit. You knew it on day 1, but your inner lawyer totally talked you out of it. Moving on to Section 2, your body's second brain, the science of gut feelings. To really understand this, we've got to strip away that mystical, woo-woo perception of intuition and look directly at the hard neuroscience. The phrase gut feeling, it isn't just a fun metaphor. It is backed by hard science. You literally have an enteric nervous system located entirely within your gut. It is so incredibly complex that researchers actually call it the body's second brain. And this second brain is directly linked to your subconscious, the massive unseen processing center of your entire mind. Millions. Every single second, your subconscious is sifting through millions of bits of information. It's constantly spotting patterns, it's reading micro-expressions on people's faces, analyzing subtle environmental cues. This is all stuff that your conscious thinking brain is entirely oblivious to. So when your gut reacts to something, it's usually because this massive subconscious data processor has spotted something incredibly important that your slow, rational brain hasn't even registered yet. To put that kind of processing power into perspective, when your gut reacts to a situation, it's essentially playing 4D chess, analyzing millions of variables at lightning speed. Meanwhile, your rational brain is still staring at the board, trying to figure out how many spaces a knight can move. The conscious brain is incredibly smart, sure, but it simply cannot match the raw processing speed of your gut. This is exactly why icons like tech entrepreneur Steve Jobs made the choices they did. Dropping out of college with no degree and absolutely zero backup plan. I mean, on paper, that is a terrible idea. His inner lawyer would have been screaming at him. But he trusted his instinct over logic because he deeply knew the path everyone expected just wasn't right for him. And honestly, there are thousands of stories exactly like this out there. Which brings us to Section 3, the trap of overthinking and why we sabotage our superpower. So if our gut is this incredibly powerful, data-driven supercomputer, why on earth do we constantly sabotage ourselves by ignoring it? Let's break down the mechanics of fear and overthinking. Look, your brain's primary job is just to protect you. It wants to avoid pain, embarrassment, and failure at absolutely all costs. So the moment you feel a strong inner pull to make a bold move, like ending a long-term relationship or quitting a super safe job, your brain panics. It floods you with rapid-fire questions. What if I fail? What if I completely regret it? What if I'm just wrong? It does everything in its power to keep you safe and comfortable. But the real kicker here is that this protective overthinking almost always leads to total paralysis. You end up making a worse decision or just no decision at all. And you need to remember this crucial truth. Not deciding is a decision, By choosing to do nothing, you are actively deciding to stay in the wrong job. You're actively deciding to stay in the wrong relationship. You're just letting your dreams gather dust on a shelf labeled, maybe someday, even though deep down, you already know the answer. Let's look at section 4, gut instinct versus impulse. How to actually tell the difference. Because following your gut can sometimes look totally rash or reckless to the outside world, we really need to know how to separate a chaotic urge born from panic from a genuine, deeply rooted instinct. We get this mixed up all the time. Impulses are driven by fear, by anxiety, or by your ego. They are frantic. They will loudly scream for your attention. True gut feelings, on the other hand, they don't scream. They whisper. It's not an anxious, panicked response. It's a quiet, calm, deep knowing that you simply cannot shake no matter how hard you try. So how do we actually apply this in real life? Next time you're at a crossroads, use the pause, feel, act method. First, just take a breath to pause. Don't rush it. Still your mind. Second, feel and question the root of your emotion. Ask yourself, is this just excitement and ego, or is it that calmer knowing? And third, if that still small voice persists even after a bit of reflection, trust it. Make your move. Act on it. Because that quiet voice, it's usually the wisest one in the room. And that leads into our final part, section 5, how to finally listen, ancient wisdom for modern decisions. To wrap up this explainer today, I want to point out that relying on this inner voice is not some trendy new self-help hack. Stoic philosophers believed deeply in acting with decisiveness based on inner truth. The samurai were rigorously trained to trust their instincts in the chaotic heat of battle. Zen monks practiced stillness specifically so they could hear this voice within. We are human beings, you know? We're not spreadsheets. Elite athletes, modern CEOs, and military leaders thrive because they actively align their logical reasoning with this very human intuition. It's the one thing machines just cannot replicate. I absolutely love this quote from Albert Einstein. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. Think about that. We have totally made the servant the master. The real reason we often ignore our gut isn't because we can't hear it. It's because we are terrified of the massive life changes it's demanding of us. It might be telling you that the career you spent 10 years building just isn't right. But remember, the truth does not go away just because you ignore it. It just waits, and it whispers, until you are finally ready to listen. So I want to leave you with this one really powerful question. What decision are you avoiding right now? What truth have you buried behind logic and rationality for far too long? Every single time you listen to that quiet inner voice, it gets louder, it gets more confident, and it gets more trustworthy. So what is one small step you can take today in the direction your gut is quietly pointing you? Take that step, because honestly, deep down, you already know what to do.